And stay with us. The first leg of this conversation today essentially is about the rule of law in the nation. And of course, the place of the National Assembly and, being what it's supposed to be, creating law, making laws that, helps the people, oversight functions, checks and balances and all of that. But when it appears like the House and the leadership making it look like whatever they are doing there, that is not the focus. And we are having back and forth about personal issues that, keeps popping up. And the name of the hallowed chambers has been mentioned over and over. Then we should ask questions. And just like I said about the rule of law, the right of the people, obedience to our laws and the rules, irrespective of whose orgs is God. And that is why we are having this personal conversation about the suspended Senator Natasha Akpoti, who the court, has said should be reinstated because she can't be denied access, of representing our people. Kogi Central, what happened because of time, she was suspended for not adhering to the rules of the Senate. For 6 months, she was suspended. But the court has said otherwise, even while they have slapped down the wrist for a satire, satirical apologies she put on her Facebook. The court said, apologize in some daily newspapers and on your Facebook page. That on one hand, for the issue of you representing your people, the Senate should call you back. That's Senator Natasha. And yesterday, the embattled senator tried to access the National Assembly, basing, our quest on that, but she was denied access at the House, first gate, second gate, but the main gate of the National Assembly, or the main doors were locked against her, and a kind of drama ensued. We allow you to take a look.
It would go pretty, and that's to let Nigerians know that that outburst I had on the floor was just a compilation of so many wrongs that Akpabio has meted against me. And I would say this, pretty much it's a shame that we have had so many good Senate presidents. We've had Chuba Akpabio of blessed memory. We've had Senator David Mark. We have had Bukola Saraki. We've even had Ahmed Lawal, who is a senator right now. And I'd say this pretty much is the worst assembly Nigeria has ever had. And I hope we will not have to suffer this anymore, because it tells a lot on the individual. And I've said this before and I'm saying it again. The Senate President Godswill Akpabio runs the Nigerian Senate as if it's the third-term governor of Akwa Ibom. Many senators are afraid. You've all seen what happened. You are not allowed to speak. When you try to speak or air your views on certain issues that are critical, you get shut down if it does not conform with what he wants. Is there an official reason given to you for why you're not allowed to come? So far, I've not been given any official reason. I've only read on the papers yesterday that I should not resume today because the Senate has appealed, and that is why I presented to you that the Senate has not appealed the judgment. It is Akpabio himself. He is abusing power by willing the entire institutions to fight me. It's a personal vendetta that Akpabio is unleashing on me by hiding under the wings of the institutions, and it is wrong. It is totally wrong, because you can't have his own senatorial district deprive the Kogi Central of representation. There is just no reason why these gates should not be open. But by and large, considering the fact that the Senate is vacating tomorrow, whenever they deem it fit to resume, we would resume as well. So what matters most is all the pressures and all the calls of me apologizing for no wrong that I did. I have refused to do that. So if it means staying the entire 6 months for an unjust suspension, which I'm repeating again, has been quashed by the courts.
All right, and that was Senator Natasha Akpoti. She tried to gain access to the House, but she was denied. The Senate has responded to that by their spokesperson, Yeremia Daramodu, who said on a program that we are not actors. And whatever Senator Natasha did was more like a skit making. And, the Senate has appealed that court ruling, saying the court just doesn't have the jurisdiction to do that. It's an internal mechanism, affairs of the Senate. And the issue of the record that the senator didn't even ask for that. And the court doesn't have the power as a Father Christmas to grant whatever she has not applied for. But does she have that? Some lawyers, again, are faulted a mode of, executing that particular judgment. We have a lawyer in the house with us today, a public affairs analyst, Barrister Akpoti-Uduaghan, joins us virtually. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well, thank you. And of course, in the studio with us live, we have Ladiji Alabi, a public affairs analyst. Thank you, Ladiji, for joining us.
Good morning, Femi and Daniel, and to Barrister Ogunwusi. Good morning, everybody.
Right. And Barrister, let's start from you. The place of law in all of these, you had my introductions. What's your assessment of this issue, even until yesterday?
Well, I think the Senate should be in the vanguard of obeying the law that it makes. Because in retrospect, it is the National Assembly that makes laws for the country. And no matter what the laws are, the duty of the National Assembly to obey the same law that it makes in principle should not be under debate. However, the issue seems to be the mode of enforcement that Senator Akpoti tried to carry out. You see, if our lawyers had been, honest with her, they would have told her that there is actually a process of enforcement. It is not just going to the premises by yourself. For example, you want to forfeit a property. You are not expected to go by yourself and start saying, I want to sell this property. If you go with the instruments of the court, there are bailiffs and sheriffs who are actually recruited for such a purpose, with some policemen also attached to the court system. I think it was very faulty for an individual to try to enforce a court order. Be that as it may, I think the National Assembly should have showed respect for the court, whether it was enforced or not. The Senate should have let her in, or the Senate should have gone on appeal and also seek what you call a stay of execution on that particular decision. If you ask for a stay of execution along with appeal, the authority of the Supreme Court is that that action remains in abeyance in certain categories. What we are facing is a situation whereby the Senate only went on appeal, in quotes, in recent times. They had, like 2 weeks to do that. If they were really serious about taking the rule of law as their primary responsibility, they just, it's like they just think they can just carry on with anything they love to do.
All right. All right, Barrister Ogunwusi, if you're still with us, still talking about the Senate right there. Like you said, it seems as though they just carried on to do whatever they wanted to do. But here's the point. Right from the beginning, the Senate, in their appeal, they are arguing that the court doesn't even have the jurisdiction to entertain that matter in the first place. Barrister, do you think that is why the Senate acted the way they acted? Just because they don't even think they are bound by the law in the first place?
I understand the principle that they are appealing to, but it is totally redundant in this case. It is the principle of separation of powers, whereby every arm of government is independent, but they are also interdependent. If you want policemen to storm National Assembly for security, it is not the Senate President who will give the order. It is the President, through the Inspector General of Police, who will do it. So agencies of government do not operate, arms of government do not operate in isolation of each other. Otherwise, there will be chaos. And that is why most of these senators went through the court system before they even got to their seats. So it is a false and redundant position. to say the court has no jurisdiction. Who then has jurisdiction when the rights of a citizen are being trampled without any remorse? So this is false.
All right.
It has never been the case. It can never be the case.
Okay. All right, Barrister Ogunwusi. Let me come to you, Mr. Alabi. As a public affairs analyst, looking at the whole drama that played out at the National Assembly yesterday, what's your impression? How does this portray Nigeria as a nation?
Well, thank you, Daniel, once again, and Femi. I think I'm safe now because Barrister Ogunwusi has laid a very good legal foundation for us on this conversation, and he has absolutely said a lot of things on my mind. But, you know, the perception, how does it portray us? It portrays us as an unserious democratic nation. You know, since the beginning of the whole thing, I've always mentioned to people that this is not good for our democracy. Most especially, you know, for our international image also. Don't forget that, you know, local policy is what we translate it into our international policy. And most of the time, they are multinationals, they are agencies who see what happens in your local policy or politics and want to judge you by that. If the Senate, who is meant to be, you know, a body of people who are honorable, is victimizing a member. On it, don't forget, people have established from the word go that you don't even have a right to, you know, shortchange a particular senatorial district for 6 months. And now a court of competent jurisdiction have said, return her. Yes, the Senate want to hide under, you know, we have appealed the case, we have done this, we have done that. Yes, you know, the barrister said, okay, so she shouldn't have done that on her own, trying to
execute the judgment.
But don't forget also that, you know, the Senate, just about 2 days after the judgment, have started, you know, responding on Facebook, via Facebook. What happens to, you know, the official communication gap between them? That she was on suspension doesn't mean she shouldn't have some level of, you know, communication. But you look at the whole thing, you see it as a case of victimization. I don't like you and whatever you do, and because it is majority against minority. In the whole 109 senators that we have in the Federal Republic, we have about just 3 or 4 women. And, you know, it's a case of, okay, so she's a minority, she's a lady. If she's not doing what we want, we'll victimize her. I think it's not, for me, it is not good for us. And if we all keep quiet on this, what if it happens to your daughter later? If it may not be in the Senate, what if it is in a lower, you know, agency of government? What if such a thing happens to your daughter? If it is an injustice, let us all speak out against it. This is injustice, and it must not stand.
All right. You know, let's look at the public. You started from there, international outlook and all of those things. Before I come to Barrister Ogunwusi, still with you, the Senate, Senator Yemi Adaramodu is the spokesman of the Nigerian Senate, and he has said and dismissed Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan's attempt to return to the National Assembly as a skit-making venture, insisting that the Senate remains focused on serious legislative duties. And he said, whatever has happened is not supposed to be. Part of what he said as Senator Adaramodu, we are not actors, we are legislators. The National Assembly has more important responsibilities than producing seasoned films. It is baffling that someone will appeal to a court order and still try to enforce it as if it were final. That's the position of the Senate, as said by the spokesman, to say whatever. And, you know, this kind of language have been used over and over, you know, on these same senator as well. And they are still maintaining that, you know, whatever she's doing, she's just playing to the gallery. They are not skit makers. She cannot, just like the barrister said, you know, enforce that thing as if that is the final place. But then many persons are saying, with the way that he's looking like a personal issue. And the Senator Natasha said it as well. Why is the Senate now being used as the ground for this? on awesome wrestling?
Well, Femi, I'm one of the advocates of we having a strong institution or having strong institutions that is devoid of somebody's personal, I want to show I am the one in charge. I always give the example of Mike Pence, the former Vice President of the United States, who by constitution is like, the leader of the Senate who passes some of these electoral whatever. And when Donald Trump in his first term wanted to go against the Constitution, Mike Pence said his allegiance is to the Constitution of the United States of America,
not to the president.
Not to the president. I ask people, would that have happened in Nigeria? You see this, the same senator that said they are not skit makers, are they not the ones singing on your mandate we shall stand? Is that not skit making? Is that the official national anthem? Is that the official national anthem? No, that it is not. But you see all of them singing on your mandate we shall stand. What makes you more of a skit maker? In fact, you are even a low budget skit maker compared to the real skit makers. So it should, see, most of the time when these people want to come out on personal vendettas like this, they want to show, oh, we are the ones in charge, they come out with words that is against what they do. You guys practically do skit. You guys practically are not adding any value to the lives of average Nigerians, except for you guys enriching yourself more. Don't forget, when there was going to be a protest last year, this same Akpabio said, let them be protesting while we enjoy our whatever in the National Assembly. These are things that these people say, and you look at them as if, are you people really
Should they really be saying it?
Should you be saying all these things? And many of these allegations, don't forget, Senator Seriake Dixon also mentioned why there was the issue of state of emergency in River State. When Akpabio wanted to shut him down, he said, you have the same right as I have. You are elected the same way I was elected. You are only first among equal. It doesn't mean you are better than me. So I think people should understand, or people leading us should understand that, see, the system will always outlive you. You cannot be there forever. She mentioned a couple of people who have become the Senate President. Some of them are dead. Some of them are still alive. And people, now, it's sad that, as bad or as not so good as those people looked when they were the Senate President. Now people now appreciate. If somebody can refer to Ahmed Lawan as a former Senate President as a good person, that means Akpabio must have been a very terrible Senate President.
Let me ask I was almost saying Senator. Barrister Ogunwusi.
Maybe Barrister is going to be Senator.
Barrister Ogunwusi now, almost the same question, and that are you bothered that the Senate is being reduced? Why a senator spokesman is saying this is skit making. The senator who wants to be recorded is saying this is high-handedness, and Akpabio has turned into his family estate, that this is the kind of thing that is coming from the hollow chamber. Are you bothered, really?
Well, to be honest, let me first of all correct an impression that I said Natasha should not have sought enforcement. What I said was that there is a procedure for enforcement. And she did not obviously go through that route.
Noted.
Then I must also confess that the Senate spokesman is my friend. And I don't want him to refuse to attend my next birthday ceremony. But let's now leave the jokes. Let's leave the jokes and look at, I've said it repeatedly that the National Assembly is just a parastatal of the executive now. It's just like a ministry. You can hardly see them doing any serious oversight of the presidency. How can you oversight the presidency when you're actually part of the presidency? Just yesterday, they passed $21 billion loan again on top of the ones that they had already incurred. And they will tell you all kinds of dishonest things. You only need to look deeper and see that these things are false. So sometimes you wonder if we are really a democracy. You also sometimes wonder if there is actually anything like the rule of law. somebody suggested that maybe they should just whisper to Natasha to go and cooperate with Akpabio so that there will be peace at the end of the tunnel. I mean, when you see sad comments like that, and you are a father of women, of daughters, it rankles you so deeply. It rankles, you know, your sense of modesty and normalcy. Even the allegation was never investigated by the Senate. Even if only to put up a skit. To quote the words of my friend, let us not deceive ourselves. This is brazen show of force. They are trying to show they are in charge, and there's nothing anybody can do. I just hope so too.
All right.
These things will add terminal velocity.
All right. All right, Barrister Ogunwusi, let's take a critical look at the legal implications of the actions of the Senate at this time. They appealed, the Senate actually appealed against that ruling. But Barrister Ogunwusi, it wasn't even the Senate who filed that appeal. It was the Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, who filed that appeal with his legal team, okay, questioning the jurisdiction of the court, and also saying that Justice Binta Nyako of the Federal High Court actually, you know, made a lot of errors in that ruling. So he filed that ruling. So he took it personal this time. Now, looking at the action of the Senate barring Senator Natasha from gaining access into the complex, what legal actions can Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan take at this time? How would you advise her as a legal practitioner?
Look, the Senate President hasn't got immunity. What she needs is to look for some crack lawyers and cite the Senate President in contempt in the same court that issued the order. However, you see, people talk about appeal. I've never seen the appeal itself. I don't know what the contents are. So I'm not competent to say whether it's actually the right way it should have come, because anybody who is a third party in a particular matter and is he was a defendant in the case can seek to join, can even appeal as a third party within our laws if the decision of the lower court affects the person. That is a way of looking at it. So I don't know what the lawyers have put together, and I don't want to gamble with reality in a situation like this. But if Akpabio actually appealed in his own name, without seeking leave of court to appeal as a third party, then the whole thing now, that is when you now have a real skit. That is a real skit. But now let's look at it. What stopped Akpabio from using the Senate to appeal? When the Senate was the defendant in the original case. That is difficult for me to understand. And I don't see what they can gain from it. Because it makes it more cumbersome, it makes it clumsier, and at the end of the day may be counterproductive in court. But I ask you a question. Are our courts fit for purpose at the moment? Especially at the apex? Because we have seen a lot of decisions, even of the same courts, being changed overnight. It happens so frequently in the Supreme Court these days. The Supreme Court said that when you decamp from a position, you lose that position which you hand on the platform of that previous party. When it got to Rivers State, they said something else. You just should have. Are we really safe in this country? And my honest suggestion is that we are not.
Barrister Ogunwusi, if I got you clearly, you are saying that Senator Natasha can actually file a contempt suit against the Senate President. Barrister Ogunwusi, are you still with us? Okay, all right. If you can see here,
I'm with you, please.
Okay, I'm saying, are you saying that Senator Natasha can actually file a contempt suit against the Senate President for disregarding the ruling of the court?
Against and all the senators who have the authority to bring her back to the House.
Interesting one there. You talked about the appeal before we come to Ladiji here. The appeal of Senate President against the Federal High Court judgment which recommended the recall of suspended Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. In the notice of appeal dated July 14, 2025, filed through his lead counsel, Kende Ogunwumi USAN, Akpabio seeks to overturn the July 4 judgment delivered by Justice Binta Nyako, and the High Court had described Akpoti-Uduaghan's 6-month suspension as excessive and faulted the deprivation of her constituency of Senate representation. Now, the Akpabio legal team, they are contesting the High Court's jurisdiction, insisting that the matter concerns the internal affairs of the National Assembly and falls outside judicial purview as provided under Section 251 of the 1999 Constitution, and the Senate President, in his 11 grounds of appeal, faulted the Federal High Court for dismissing his preliminary objection and for issuing orders affecting parliamentary procedures protected by law. And according to him, the words spoken during plenary and Senate resolutions are safeguarded under the Legislative Houses Power and Privileges Act and cannot be subjected to judicial interference. And he also faulted the trial court for allegedly breaching his right to a fair hearing by raising issues not argued by any of the parties, including the question of whether Akpoti-Uduaghan's suspension was excessive. And he said the court cannot grant a relief that was not asked for. And they said in that ruling, that appeal, that the court crossed the line. Pastor Gunsi.
Well, that will be sub judice if I started to go into the merit of their submissions.
Yeah.
The only thing I can tell you is that when you have a law report without the full context of the application or of the appeal that is lodged, the process that is lodged in court, you may find yourself saying the wrong things. You have just read to me, but you are a journalist, you are not a lawyer.
Yeah.
A lawyer knows what to look for, knows the defects that could have killed a case.
All right.
But I can tell you for free that there is nothing that the courts cannot look into, depending on the circumstances. If National Assembly makes a law today, and that law is signed by the president, the court can declare the law to be an illegal and unconstitutional law.
According to the prayers here, one of the prayers is the fact that whatever is said at the plenary and done at the plenary should be a business of the National Assembly, and the court should not cross that line. That's what you're saying.
Supposing somebody stood up at the plenary and slaps another person, would that not be a matter for the courts? And then you see, whether it's plenary or it is committee stage or anything, you have to keep within the law. The moment you do things that are ultra-virus, things that cannot be supported by the Constitution, then of course it is the duty of the court to look into it. It doesn't matter whether it was in your bedroom or in your plenary.
All right, barrister. Let me come to Ladiji. Now, many persons believe Senator Natasha Akpoti, without, because I think that's in court already, the issue of allegation of the sexual advances and all of those things. But they believe maybe she didn't go about this thing the right way, because that with what we are seeing now on the face value, you are fighting against the establishment in number 3, and he has the other guys in his corner. Now, we have not seen video proof, audio proof, or whatever has happened, and maybe that she lacked that counsel on how to fight this kind of battle. Even now that the court says she should be reinstated, she didn't wait, according to lawyers, for the right people to accompany her. She went there to enforce as a personal, as somebody, as a beneficiary. Do you think she has been fighting this battle all along wrongly? Well,
the question I will pose back to such people is, how best do they think she should have started the fight? See, we need to get off something in Nigeria. Somebody, I'm using a scenario now. Somebody is raped, and Nigerians will blame the victim. Oh, why did she wear such a cloth? Oh, why did she go? Why was she walking alone in the night? No. This is now. So why don't you ask the Senate President to also say all these things she's alleging against me? Don't forget, Senator Bukola Saraki was a former Senate President in this country, and he was alleged to have done something. Bukola Saraki recused himself. His deputy took up the responsibility of taking charge of the Senate. And when he proved his case that he had not committed any offense, he returned. That's the way to go about it. Not you sitting, you are a Femi, you asked me to be a judge in my own case. Yoruba will say if you give a hoe to a madman, where will he face it to? He will not face it the other way around. He will face it to himself. Right. So if you are blaming Natasha, who has come out to allege that since the Senate President has made, and don't forget, she's not the first person. You remember the NDDCC woman? You remember also that former Vice President Alhaji Atiku Abubakar has come out to say no, Akpabio is a Syria whatever. So these are
allegedly.
He alleged, of course, yes, but these are things that Nigerians should ask questions about. Not, Natasha has not done it the way it should be done. How best do you want a victim to come out? She's a married woman, for crying out loud. You have made advances at her. She has alleged, I have not done this. Take me to whatever court you want to take me. But now, what you meted her with is just cooked up, okay, she didn't do this at the Senate, and you suspended her for 6 months. It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't. It's just that Akpabio is using his office. And for one, if you look at the trajectory of events, of things, utterances from Akpabio, you may want to believe that he is a man that has such character.
All right, Mr. Alabi. Before I move to Barrister Ogunwusi, I'm still talking about the Senate President, Godswill Akpabio. You know, allegations. We heard Natasha there saying it, that he's fond of shutting people down. When you want to raise issues on the floor of the House that are not favorable to him, okay, he's fond of shutting people down. Even Senator Dixon, I had to remind him that, see, we are equals here. You're just first among equals. So are you concerned about the ways, which the Senate President is carrying out the business of the House, making it look as if it's the Lord of the House? Just shutting people down. Point of order, we just shut them down if it doesn't tally with his own views.
I've always maintained this, and I will look into the cameras before I say this, that with the current crop of senators that we have, led by Senator Godswill Akpabio, if President Tinubu wants to become a lifetime president in Nigeria, he will have his way. With the crop of the leadership of the National Assembly that we have. Don't forget, a constitutional issue on the state of emergency in Rivers State. How did they go about it? How did they go about it? You've seen, the barrister has established very well now that they look like, a branch of the executive now, of which you are meant to be a check. Now, yesterday, I was looking at the analysis of the new approved loan, $21 billion. Out of it alone, we have, one that is, I think, something billion in yen is equivalent to 156 billion naira. And we are saying, okay, we've removed subsidy to go on and use the money for other things. Now, where are we putting all those money that we are still borrowing in droves? We are still borrowing in droves. And this Senate, once they bring it to them, they approve. They are like puppet. They are like a ministry under the executive.
Do you think they're just approving? Don't you think they're also gaining from it? That's
apparently, it's not for free. They are not approving for free. That is the problem with the Nigerian National Assembly. We cannot continue like, and it happens across all the states like that. Most of these governors want guys that they can control as at the ends of affair in the assemblies. And it is not good for our democracy. You cannot be using the agency of government. I've mentioned this several times, that it is an agency of government. It is, the National Assembly should be a place where you have the honorables, the people that you can say these people are honorable in character and doings. Yeah. But now when
it's an arm of the government.
Of course, yes, it's an arm of the government. And when these people die, you gaslight people to say, okay, let's respect the dead. Did the dead respect the living when they were here? No.
All right, Mr. Alabi. Coming back to you, Barrister Ogunwusi. Looking at the actions of the Senate President Godswill Akpabio, are you concerned about the way he's carrying out his activities as a Senate President? Do you think he might be overreaching in some cases? He has been accused of, trying to shut down people when they raise points of order that do not tally with his own point of view. That's number one. Number two, as a legal practitioner, you have said it, you have likened the National Assembly to an appendage of the executive arm of government in Nigeria. What can the judicial arm of government in Nigeria do at this point to safeguard our democracy as a nation?
First, let's talk about Akpabio. I think Akpabio is an enforcer. He is trying to keep the National Assembly in check for the president. And he's trying to live up to that particular employment. So when he shouts people down, when he makes things difficult for people who oppose, whatever presentation or whatever position the president stands for, he's just an enforcer. Just the way the president would send, policemen to gun down school children because they were carrying flags. Now, let us now come to whether the National Assembly could be checked by the judiciary. The judiciary is usually presumed to be the last hope of the common man. But it is left to question whether they have actually lived up to that particular aspiration. Because you see a lot of confusing things coming from the judiciary. I think that what is wrong with the National Assembly is also wrong with the judiciary. That is the truth.
All right.
So in that case, Barrister Ogunwusi,
or when last did you see the executive lose a big case at the Supreme Court? I mean, a really serious political case.
Yeah. So the problem now is, Barrister Ogunwusi, if the judiciary, which is supposed to be the hope of the common man, is also having this kind of problem, where does that leave the ordinary Nigerian?
Yeah, that is why I'm always afraid to look at these matters. Because when you make peaceful change impossible, you are calling for trouble. But we must not orchestrate trouble for our country, because it is not the people who are responsible for it who will suffer. And that is why I just don't know, to be honest. All I think we have to continue doing with regular stridency is to keep telling truth to power, even though it is clear that power in this instance is deaf and dumb.
Interesting one there.
Because the other alternative, chaos, is most unattractive.
And we don't want that.
And we don't want that.
We don't want that. Please stay with us. Barrister Ogunwusi, Laji Jalabi, and distinguished viewers. We go on this quick break. When we return, there is another matter. A governor in the South spoke and said, before you can come to my state, let me be aware. Is it a matter of semantics? Is it a matter of ego? Is it a matter of witch hunting or just protocol? Stay with us.